Why are you doing this, Ron DeSantis? In the United States today, the political and social environment lacks the initiative to change things for the better. The government fails to recognize the important priorities of the future generation of its inhabitants. For example, the healthcare system, the government debt, politics, etc. But the greatest example of what America lacks is the art of reforming and innovating its educational system, or secondary schooling, for students' needs. The educational system lacks many things, but HB 1557 has shed light on a new issue. Ron DeSantis just recently signed HB 1557, also known as the Parental Rights in Education, and makes it law to adopt procedures for notifying a student's parent if there is a change in the student's services or monitoring related to the student's mental, emotional, or physical health or well-being, and the school's ability to provide a safe and supportive learning environment for the student. This explains that if a student doesn't have a religious entity, third party, or responsible parent to go to and discuss issues relating to themselves, they essentially have no one to go to and solve a given issue that any student is facing. HB 1557 has seized the rights of students and jeopardized the mental health of both majority and minority students. Although the bill has some great respect for limiting access to inappropriate books for young children, it most definitely limits students' ability to retain privacy and support over complicated life issues. HB 1557 inherently violates children's privacy rights by allowing the schools to disclose the students' issues to their parents. In some cases, that leads to discrimination actions that would negatively hurt a child. At least 1 in 7 children have experienced child abuse or neglect in the past year in the United States. This is likely an underestimate because many cases go unreported. And then in 2020, 1,750 children died of abuse and neglect in the United States, covered by the CDC. There are 81.25 million children 0 to 18 years old in the United States, meaning 11.6 million of them have been abused or neglected. It is self-evident that not only parents are great, but this law are not great. Not only parents are not great, but this law makes it impossible for students to not get help for themselves when potentially they are being abused or neglected by their own parents. Nevertheless, the study found that homosexual and bisexual men reported higher rates of child emotional and physical maltreatment, including major physical maltreatment by their mother or guardian, and major physical maltreatment by their father or parental guardian. In contrast, homosexual and bisexual women have compared to heterosexual women reported higher rates of major physical maltreatment by both their mother and guardian, and their father and their guardian, which gives us another perspective on the bill. Some privacy issues contain issues with students' sexual orientation. This bill would expose their sexual identity orientation, which in turn causes more instances of child abuse and neglect. Because of a child's sexual orientation, this bill has a significant impact on not only the well-being of children, but also on their right to retain privacy regarding their more personal issues, particularly if their parent neglect or disvalues them because of their sexual orientation. This is why it should be our inalienable responsibility as citizens of this country to protect children's privacy concerns and not expose them to outside sources they do not trust or want to know. So what happens when a student gets overwhelmed with an issue but cannot bring it up with a school counselor or teacher? Because if they do, they'll get exposed according to this bill. Well, in some cases, it leads to the child to want to cause harm to themselves based on their lack of ability to discuss difficult issues. As such, the issue builds more and more pressure on the child. There are approximately 20 million children, about the population in New York, in high school each year. And of those, the 2019 Youth Behavior Risk Factor Surveillance System shows that 18.8% or 3,196,000 of high school students seriously consider attempting suicide, and 8.9% or 1,513,000 actually attempted suicide, according to the America's Health Ranking. Additionally, deaths by suicide are the second leading cause of death between the ages of 10 and 24, which produces approximately 6,488 deaths each year. according to the National Institute of Mental Health. Not to mention, there is a huge increase in deaths by suicide as young adults aged 10 to 24 in the United States increased 57.4% from 6.8 per 100,000 in 2007 to 10.7 in 2018, according to the CDC. Given these statistics, we can glance at a set of students who were not able to get saved by the health agencies within schools. Nevertheless, school counselors play an important role in ensuring that students have excellent educational experience. They are part of a school support team that provides essential social, emotional support in addition to academic support. And soon after this bill is in effect, children will be even more afraid to talk based on its potential consequences and causes the numbers above to increase the state in Florida. Not to mention the average student to school counselor ratio in America is 464 to 1. That is nearly double the ratio recommended by the American School Counselor Association. This indicates that there are not enough counselors, the ones that are in part of the support system for students in primary and secondary schooling. Furthermore, modern day counseling practices should be more innovative to adapt to the current school counselors to be more of a psychologist, which focuses on the well-being of students rather than just being a guidance counselor. As counselors have to provide for not only normal students, but the 7.1% of children aged 3 to 17, approximately 4.4 million students have been diagnosed with anxiety, and 3.2% of children ages 3 to 17, approximately 1.9 million, are diagnosed with depression, according to the CDC. This shows that there is a great need for students to have a great and a safe environment to discuss common and diagnose issues that they face daily. So how does this affect minorities? Well, specifically, if we examine the LGBTQ community or members or any other minorities in that matter, we begin to understand there is a great decline in educational scores and academic performance and higher chronic sadness relating to the well-being of a student. Jenny Beds, a school climate specialist at West Edge, sheds light on why LGBTQ fall behind in schooling. She says that if you don't feel accepted, you have to hide something fundamental about who you are, or you are scared at every step, you obviously won't be fully present and immersed in learning. Furthermore, a study focusing on LGBTQ students reported that LGBTQ students reported that their main reason for dropping out of a high school is constant bullying and harassment from other students, according to the American Psychological Association. This shows that if there is a group like the LGBTQ members, there are much higher rates of having issues with their own life. As such, these students would need to access a support system or service that's already in schooling to help them provide a safe environment for learning. HB 1557 prevents the most of these minority children to have access because they fear prosecution and oppression from their parents. This bill takes away the golden ticket to secure a safe, fair, and positive learning environment for the 14% of LGBTQ students in our schools. Students in schooling face not only social issues with their peers and parents, but also political issues like HB 1557, which limit their ability to express themselves in a safe manner. It is reported that if these LGBTQ students have the same school support as their peers, the same access to high expectations, the same positive relationship in schools, the same experience in terms of lower victimization rates, for example, their outcomes would become better. So LGBTQ students are just one example of groups that will be negatively affected. But once it starts, it begins to spread to other groups and soon everyone. A wise man once said, neglect starts as an infection. And if you don't take care of it, it becomes a disease. And one neglect leads to another. And the worst of all is when neglect starts to diminish our self-worth, our self-confidence, our self-value. HB 1557 not only allows neglect to happen, but it opens the door for further legislation to not only in Florida, but throughout the country to be passed. For example, just like Black codes and Jim Crow laws, these laws sought to limit African-American rights. HB 1557 does the same, but instead of African-American rights that are taken away, It's us students' rights being taken away. Students are not only ones directly affected by education. So why don't we have opinion on something we do 180 days, 5 days a week, 7 hours a day, and an hour-long standardized test? So why are we doing this, Ron DeSantis? Why are you neglecting our children's opinions and concerns? Why? Thank you.